up, everyone? Welcome to my mind's eye. Hope everybody's day is going well. Now, before we jump into today's video, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who stopped by my channel and checked me out, checked out my videos. I really appreciate you giving me some of your time. And hopefully you stick with me for this ride, this reaction ride that I'm on. Now, I did make 3 videos that I wasn't able to upload, and for various technical reasons. And this is a learning process for me, not just doing reactions, but also the technical aspect of it, post-production, editing, and the camera stuff, and lighting, all that. So I'm learning as I'm going, and I'm growing. And like I said, hopefully you stick with me for this ride. And today, we're going to be taking a look at another Joe Rogan clip. This one is from a episode of his podcast that he did with a guy named Bobby Azarian. Now, this will be a first-time reaction for me because I don't know who Bobby is or anything about Bobby, what he does, none of that. But the title of the video, which is the Universe Developing Consciousness? I thought it was pretty interesting. And I love the big existential questions of life. I love asking questions about it, the conversations, the debates. And I thought this might be a pretty cool conversation to take a look at. So we'll see. Now, right out the gate, I already have an opinion on this, which is I don't think the universe is developing consciousness because it's not alive in the same way that you and I are. But I could be wrong. I don't know. So we'll hear what Bobby says, and maybe he'll say something that will update my perspective. And I think that's what we need a little bit more of in this day and age is people that aren't so, I guess, bunkered down in their ideological or worldview perspective that they could admit that they may possibly be wrong about something. And upon new information, they update their perspective or their outlook. And, that's how you keep growing. You go from there. So, I'm 43 years old. I spent a lot of my life studying, researching, asking questions, and learning. And while I may know a lot about a lot of things, there's so much more that I don't know than what I do know. In fact, it's so massive, the amount of information or things about life and existence that I don't know, that it just absolutely dwarfs what I do know. It's like comparing the size of the earth to the size of the universe, and the universe being everything I don't know, which is infinite. And I never will, but I'm always going to keep studying, and I'm always going to keep learning and researching things because that's how my mind works. It's fuel for my brain. And so like I said, I have a pretty firm opinion on this so far, but who knows? It may change or be updated with whatever Bobby's talking about. So let's hop into this and see what Joe and Bobby are talking about. Okay, let's back.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
You think that this is a process that is leading towards what? Do you extrapolate? Do you really think that, do you wonder what humans are actually doing, what consciousness is actually doing, why the universe has this as a tendency or as a law?
Yeah, no, it's I think it's the most mysterious.
Okay, sorry. I know I'm pausing this 25 seconds in, but one thing I like to do, at least for me personally, is when I hear something that I think is important or sounds interesting, instead of hearing this huge monologue or conversation about a topic that could be pretty deep, I like to break it down and examine ideas or statements. And what Joe just said, the consciousness as a tendency or a law of the universe. Now, I don't know if it's a tendency, because for all we know, life only exists here on Earth that we're sure of. I believe or at least I think, that there's life on other planets. And we don't know that for sure, but that's just what I think based on the vastness of the universe. And now the fact that we've actually discovered thousands of Earth-like planets in the Goldilocks zone, which is the right distance from their sun and has all the right signatures, I guess, for being an Earth-type planet that could support life. As far as it being a law, I wonder if he's talking about in the same way that, like, we have the laws of physics, right? You got Newton's law of motion and universal gravitation, I believe, the first and second law of thermodynamics, the Doppler effect, the Heisenberg principle of uncertainty. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of these laws that make up the whole body of the laws of physics. So I've never heard anything proposed that would say that consciousness is a law, but I could be wrong. If you know, let me know down in the comments. And so let's back this up a little bit. And it also sounds like we just came in on the middle of the conversation. Obviously we did, but like in the middle of like a thought what these two were having. And so it's a little disorienting right out the gate here to figure out what exactly they're talking about.
Why the universe has this as a tendency or
Yeah.
as a law?
Yeah, no, I think it's the most mysterious question there is.
big
So
one.
is there an ultimate goal?
Right.
What I do think is that this increase in complexity is inevitable, but like I said, it's not this straight march of progress. There's like constantly these
Sure.
challenges. There's massive existential challenges, and that is the only thing that pushes us to create solutions. So there's this principle in the book that I call Popper's principle, named after a philosopher of science, Karl Popper. And the idea is that, so that our challenges are what force us to find solutions. So if progress is going to always continue, that means the challenges won't stop. So even if we do attain some like globally unified state, I would like to see like some sort of agreement among nations that says, okay, we're all going to demilitarize and we're going to put this money into like medicine or technology, whatever else, all the other
That'd be
things
wonderful.
that, we could be funding that could help, human society. And
All right, so I just wanted to pause it real quick because I wanted to kind of let him get his thought out there. Now, I think that's just kind of a general rule of life, of existence, right? Life always throws challenges our way. And challenges, if you want to overcome them, always require solutions. I don't think anybody's creating solutions to non-challenges. I think people take things that already work and they innovate them, which is they improve upon them to make it better than what it is or just as good, but in a different way. And part of my philosophy of life in terms of how I approach challenges is knowing that challenges are always going to happen to you. Life is always going to throw shit your way, right? So that's a constant for me, something that's never going to change. You can mitigate challenges that happen to you, but by not putting yourself in certain situations or things like that, but you're never going to completely be free of those challenges. And the other constant is the end result, right? So you have a challenge, you deal with it or you don't deal with it, and then you have an end result. So you have these two constants. The thing that you only have control of, in my opinion, is how you deal with those challenges. And if you have a process or a method, whether you've gotten it from somebody else or you've developed it yourself, you can address those challenges in an efficient way that allows you to always get the most favorable outcome. But I do agree here with Bobby is, life is always going to throw challenges your way. And he's talking existentially, which is outside of yourself. But I also think that people create challenges as well. And usually that comes from internal because you have self. But let's back up here a few seconds and continue.
That could help, human society. And, we could have something like that, but there could still be like pandemics. There could still be someone crazy that takes over and starts to, try to reverse that. So the point is, you can never reach a utopia.
Yes.
And even if we did, it wouldn't be a utopia for a long time because the world is always changing. It's this, reality is this noisy, thermally fluctuating thing, and there is chaos. Chaos is needed for complexity too. Actually, when a system transitions to a state of higher order, you need some chaos in the system. So that's because, like, if a system is too rigid and too, so you could think of like things seemed, we had democratic presidents, like you could think about just like how things were under Obama for a while. There wasn't the craziness that we're seeing.
Okay. So I just wanted to pause real quick again, because you said, I don't think we'll ever reach a utopia. And I absolutely believe that. Now, you have a lot of people, let's say, on the progressive side of the aisle, that are the ideological side of the aisle, that are always striving for a utopia. Now, I believe that we should always be striving to be better as people and loving one another and, treating everybody like we want to be treated. But I don't think that we can actually achieve the utopia, because the people that are pushing for this kind of disregard or discount human nature. And human nature is part of that is people are corrupt. There's evil people out there, people that do bad things and find enjoyment in that. So I don't think we're ever going to be able to get everybody on board to achieve that utopia. And definitely not in the Gene Roddenberry Star Trek sense of utopia, unless we develop the technology like Star Trek had, like, say, the transporter or warp drive, the replicator that can make any food you want if you have the organic compounds of that food. And even if you watch Star Trek, which Next Generation's my favorite, they are still people being people. You have people fighting, people killing other people. I mean, actual human problems. And aliens, there's aliens in there too doing some of those things, but they don't fully erase human nature. What they've done is mitigated a lot of the woes of the day, like poverty or food shortages or anything, with technology. So I think unless we actually develop some of those technologies, we're not even going to get close to that, Gene Roddenberry utopian idea. So I do agree with Bobby here in that I don't think we'll ever reach it, even though it is a nice idea. All right, let's back it up a little.
Obama for a while, there wasn't the craziness that we're seeing today. So you might think like, oh, well, whatever that system was, it was a good thing, or it was better than what we have now. But no system, no model, no way of doing things will work forever, because the external world is always changing. So we're always going to be going through these cycles and phases where we have temporary stability, but then the system needs to change. And I think right now, when we're seeing all this chaos, it is indicative of what complexity scientists call a phase transition. And so basically, the chaos is basically the system screaming for change. So you see all of this chaos, and that provides, it creates flexibility within a rigid system that allows the system to transition into something new and higher, better.
So you think...
Yeah, and I think that's actually the case too, is, you don't see many things where it's utter chaos and then it, works its way into order and it's being pristine and what that. You have typically the opposite, like you make your room or clean your house and eventually it devolves into clutter and in chaos, essentially. I don't think you'll ever see a dirty room or a messy house work its way the opposite way to where it's clean or your bed's made or anything like that. And I think that's with any system too. It may start off perfect or as close to perfect as you can get it, and then as time goes on, it devolves, and then we need to add new things to update it and make it a little bit better as the system breaks down. And again, I think that's also comes hand in hand with the human nature. With the human nature, because people are corrupt and corruptible, and there's bad players and agents out there, you're going to have any system break down over time. Okay, let's back it up.
To transition into something new and higher, better.
So you think that this is a function of the universe, that the universe has a tendency towards complexity and that we are one of the driving forces of this?
Yes.
So we're a biological driving force of a greater law of the universe.
Yeah.
But what do you think the universe wants? Like, what's the ultimate goal out of this?
So, when you talk about what the universe wants, we're already getting into like a little language trap, because are we saying that the universe is conscious, that it has a conscious intent? I don't think so.
Well, let me ask it in a different way.
Okay.
Where do you think this is going?
Well, no, so it's good to kind of break that down and be like, does the universe have a conscious intent? So I don't think it does, but I think it has sort of design. And when I say design, it's something that's not mystical. I'm saying that the laws of physics are such that complexity increases, and the universe does have something like a goal. So it may not have a conscious intent, but life emerges inevitably, and that the laws of physics play something analogous to DNA in an organism. So the laws and constants of physics are sort of cosmic DNA that ensures that this evolutionary program plays out. So maybe the universe is moving towards something like a cosmic attractor. And an attractor is a term that physicists use to describe a state of order. So, for example, when you take the stopper out of your bathtub, you will get the formation of a whirlpool, so you get this spontaneous order.
Gravity is attracting the water down the pipe. And
So you have these attractors, which are basically kind of this goal state of a system. In living systems, attractors are basically states of stability that the living system is trying to maintain against this second law of thermodynamics.
Okay, so I just want to let Bobby complete most of his thought there, and I wanted to go back to something that he said, which I want to say, let's try it right here.
Are basically states of stability.
Back it up just
get
a
this
little.
Spontaneous order.
Gravity is attracting the water down the pipe. And
like a cosmic attractor. And an attractor is a term that physicists use to describe
maybe it's a little bit before
analogous to DNA in an organism.
A little bit before that. Sorry, guys.
Mystical. I'm saying that the laws of
little bit before
what the universe wants, we're already getting into like a little language trap, because are we saying that the universe is conscious, that it has a conscious intent?
Right, here we go.
I don't think so.
Well, let me back it up just
when
a little
talk
bit more.
about what the universe wants, we're already getting into like a little
driving forces of this.
Yes.
So we're a biological driving force of a greater law of the universe.
Yeah.
But what do you think the universe wants? Like, what's the ultimate goal out of this?
So, when you talk about what the universe wants, we're already getting into like a little language trap, because are we saying that the universe is conscious, that it has a conscious intent? I don't think so.
Well, let me ask it in a different way.
Okay, so that's actually where I wanted to pause and kind of address what he was saying right there. Now, if the universe has a goal, it's either built into it already, or as he's saying, it has consciousness. And because it has consciousness, it can choose to achieve something, like a goal. Now, he's saying that the universe doesn't have consciousness, but whatever it wants is like, not, it's nothing mystical. It's kind of like built into the DNA of what the universe is. Now, my outlook or perspective on the universe, and I get where he's going with the DNA analogy, but my perspective has always been a little bit different in that I look at the universe as some people refer to it as a simulation. So yeah, I look at it as like a giant computer program. And programs are designed to carry out a function. And you have other things within this program, parts of the software, like say black holes or the universal gravitational constant, how stars are formed, what have you. All the things, gravitational waves, all the things that are in the universe that carry out specific functions and purposes, and in totality, they make the software program work as a whole. And so that's what I think in terms of how I look at the universe, is that the universe is one big software program, and all these other little things are part of the program code that help the whole program work together. So I get what he's saying about the DNA reference or analogy. And DNA, if you actually look at it, is just information anyways. It's biological information. It's 3.5 billion characters in a 4-letter alphabet. So all that is anyways, like I said, is just information. And so that's what you have in a computer program, is information, ones and zeros, and how, all the characters or whatever programmers use to write software that carry out the function of the program. But I appreciate and like his analogy. I just think the computer program, software program, is more apt for what we're talking about here. And if it's not mystical, which I'm assuming he's saying, by God or some source outside of the materialistic world, then you have to explain, or at least come up with a logical theory as to why the universe has all this information or coding written into it, and why it would have a goal. Because according to secular scientists, consciousness is just a byproduct, a happy accident of chance and necessity, random mutation. And, we got lucky. Here we are. Consciousness has arrived. But for me personally, I don't think consciousness is a mistake. I don't think it's here by chance. That's just my opinion. But without, say, a law, we have the laws of physics, all those things had to be baked into the cake when the universe formed. So gravity and gravitational waves, energy, the laws of physics, or, everything that we understand about the laws of physics, all that had to be baked into the cake. Because when they say the universe began and it expanded, if the universal constant or gravity or any of these forces had different values, then the universe would have ceased to exist shortly after it began, because it would implode on itself. So unless the universe is eternal, then how would these physics or laws of physics, how would they get there to begin with? And then you'll have people say, well, the universe, it began and then it shrank and then it began again, or there's all these different multiverses and we just happen to be living in the one that's right for life, even though we don't have any evidence to scientifically on any side of the argument to show that there's more than one universe. We know that there's different dimensions, but in terms of universe, this is all theoretical. So I just wanted to kind of examine this one part here of what Bobby was talking about. So let's fast forward it here a little bit. And
living system is trying to maintain against this second law of thermodynamics.
okay.
And so it seems like cosmic evolution is a process of generating increasingly complex attractors. So when I say that, there are these evolutionary transitions, which are versions of phase transitions that I just explained. So if you look at the story of the universe, it's a story of nature's simplest parts coming together to form larger functional wholes. So atoms come together to make molecules, which come together to make cells, which come together to make multicellular organisms, which come together to form societies. And now we have something like the emergence of a global brain, which is the network of humans connected by the internet,
Right.
as well as AIs. And so when humans leave the planet, like people out there like Elon Musk with SpaceX are trying to get humans off the planet, I'm saying that that's part of this natural evolutionary process. It wasn't just like a decision someone made or, something that we decided to do because we're clever or something. It's actually baked into this process. And that's because if life is going to continue to persist, it has to get off the planet before its star dies. So it creates like a game clock that forces life to spread. What is the end state? Maybe something like this cosmic attractor where some very legitimate scientists have speculated, people like Paul Davies, Ray Kurzweil, as a technology guy, may seem, futurist, may seem a little bit more out there, but there's this idea that, the universe is evolving and waking up, and that there could be this integrated state where something like a cosmic mind emerges from this process.
Is it an
Interesting.
egocentric way of looking at consciousness to think that the universe is waking up? I mean, we are this tiny speck
Right.
that's riding on one planet that is but a molecule in the vast infinity of the universe.
Yeah.
For
Right.
us to say, oh, one day the universe will catch up with us.
Yeah.
Be conscious like us. Isn't that kind of goofy? But isn't it like, if you think about it, isn't it kind of an egocentric biological function? The idea that consciousness, the way we term it, thinking about all our problems and the way we fit in with the universe and coming up with solutions for unique situations that we have to deal with. We think that's so amazing. But the universe is literally, they have stellar nurseries out there. They're creating stars.
Yeah.
We have hypernovas. Stars are exploding that create carbon, which is literally the building blocks for all carbon-based life. That's all that stuff is happening. We're like, yeah, one day they're going to catch up. It's going to be conscious.
Well-
why is consciousness even important?
Well, first of all,
Good question. Why is consciousness important? I mean, if I would like to, spend a fair amount of time thinking about that to actually give a good answer, but it's definitely important for us because with that consciousness, we're self-aware. We can contemplate our own existence and the universe itself. So, but yeah, it is a very egocentric thing to say, like Joe just said, to say, well, one day the universe is going to catch up with us and, develop consciousness or whatever. But if you think about it, I mean, does the universe actually need to develop consciousness itself, the universe, as a mechanism, or the entirety of the universe? Does it actually need to do that? Because, as far as I think, the universe is just carrying out its actual function, which is to expand, to produce, like you said, stellar nurseries and suns, and produce the real estate and all the things necessary for life to exist. That's the part of the program that it's carrying out its function. Just like the sun's programming or any star's programming is to carry out the function to provide heat and have the necessary gravity for planets to go around it. But yeah, I agree with Joe there that it is kind of an egocentric way to look at things.
need stars and planets to have consciousness. So
Right.
that's part of the process.
actually,
Well,
sorry.
first of all, you need stars and planets to have consciousness. So
Right.
that's part of the process too. The first ordered structures that were created by this cosmic evolutionary process, which includes life, are those ordered structures.
Right.
And well, one point you made was that, we're on this small planet. What the book argues and what a lot of origin of life researchers are arguing is that life isn't improbable. It's probably not only here, that where you have the right conditions, life emerges inevitably. So if you have the right ingredients, it'll cook something up, and that will be life. So there are estimated to be something like, billions to maybe trillions of Earth-like planets out there that
Right.
life may have emerged on, and maybe intelligent life. To assume that we are the only intelligence out there is to say that what happened on this planet is extremely, almost infinitely improbable. And I don't think that's the case. People like Richard Dawkins have argued that life emerging on other planets will evolve according to Darwinian mechanisms and these new processes of self-organization that we're describing. And so if the universe is waking up through life, and so when I say that, I want to be very clear that I'm not talking about panpsychism. When I'm saying the universe is awake, I'm talking about just, conscious agents like us are awake, and the universe used to be all inanimate matter prior to life. So in a very literal sense, the matter in the universe is waking up. So if there is this process and we find ourselves on this planet at this point, it's of course going to look, like there's not much other life out there, and that consciousness doesn't have this cosmic significance. But that's just how it looks right now at this stage. And we're already starting to see how technology can bring life off the planet. I mean,
All right, so real quick here, and then we're almost done with the video. Now, he said something where, Bobby said something where, simple things start arranging themselves into more complex things and so on and so forth until you get like these super complex structures and whatnot. Now, if you actually look at electrons and atoms, yeah, they're simple in their form, but they're actually incredibly complex things. Protein molecules. If you've ever heard or listened to, say, a biochemist that studies DNA and protein molecules, they'll tell you how crazy, mind-blowingly complex those mechanisms are. So while it may be true that simpler things are, working their way towards more complex things, I think people fail to realize how complex even these more simpler things are, like mind-blowingly complex. And another thing too, with say Darwinian evolution and Darwin's origin of species, he theorizes about life once it actually gets going. And it doesn't tackle at all how life actually starts. And nobody knows in the scientific community, whether you're, atheistic or religious or any part of the scientific field, nobody knows from a scientific perspective how life actually starts. And so just to reiterate, Darwinian evolution, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, agree, disagree, or have whatever your thoughts are on it, that's fine. But just know that it only deals with life once it actually gets going.
couple hundred years ago, people thought it was impossible to fly. Actually, I learned this from a friend. There was a New York Times article that came out something like 10 months before the Wright brothers created the plane that said it would take like 10 million years, some ridiculously long amount of time for humans to invent aircraft. So we can already see that this process basically has no limits. So the other thing you said was that, is it kind of like anthropocentric to like, people think we're projecting human qualities on the universe when you say like maybe like the universe is waking up. But I think that's a mistake to talk about humans as if we're not part of the universe. We're part of that physical system. So I don't think it's right to be like, oh, consciousness is something that only applies to humans and it's this like quirky thing. We are part of the cosmos, and you can't strip away consciousness from the description of the universe without taking away one of its most interesting aspects.
I mean, we're part of the universe, right? But we're not the same thing as the universe. We just happen to be made carbon-based life forms made of material that is, existed or what the universe is made up of. So that is the distinction, right? And that what makes us unique is we're not the same as, say, a flower. Even though we know plants are alive, they're not alive in the same way that we are. Animals seem to be conscious, but they don't have the same consciousness as, say, people have. So they're conscious in a way that we're conscious in a way that they aren't. And while there may be similarities because it's consciousness, it's not the same type of thing. And also one thing, kind of pointing back to what Bobby was saying about it was all inanimate material and then things progressed and now the universe possibly might be waking up. Well, inanimate in what way? Is he talking about from the point of the Big Bang or what? He didn't really elaborate on that, but if you look at the sun is not alive in the same way that we're alive, but it is alive in the sense that it's active, it's moving, it's hydrogen, and it's got all these nuclear explosions basically happening on the surface of it every 30 seconds or a minute or whatever the numbers are. So it's definitely animated. It's just not in the same way that we are. Now, this was very interesting conversation, and I love to do more videos like this because I just find these types of things, like I said at the beginning of the video, very interesting to listen to. And I don't think my perspective changed as to whether the universe had consciousness. was open to the idea of it, but I just didn't hear anything that would change my mind otherwise. But I didn't, who knows, it's hard to expect that from a 12-minute and 43-second video. But, I could be wrong. And that's kind of the stance I think we all need to have about anything that we believe. Yeah, sure, we could be wrong. Because when you think that you could possibly be wrong, it leaves the door open for new information to come in to update our perspective or our worldview in order to make it right or make it better than what it was. And if anything on my channel that I want for anybody that may watch this is I want to encourage thinking. And especially here in the United States, we've gotten to a place where everybody's just bunkered or hunkered down in their ideological side of the aisle. Typically it's political, but just on anything. You're either on the left or you're the right. Sure, there's the middle, where I tend to find, that's where I consider myself as in the middle of things. But, I think we need to be able to have these conversations again. And there are a lot of people, I'm not saying it doesn't happen at all. There's a lot of people out there having conversations, and there are people on the forefront or the front lines of I guess the social and cultural battle to, push and fight for us to be able to talk, about anything and everything. And it's okay if we disagree. It's okay. It's not world ending. There's plenty of people that are my friends that I disagree with completely on a wide variety of topics. And, at the end of the day, we're still friends. And we love each other as friends, and that's okay. That we have disagreements, and I'd rather talk to people that I disagree with than I agree with, because it's more challenging. It's more fun. It gives me a chance to see where I could be wrong and where my arguments might be correct. And I appreciate having people in my life where I have the ability to do that. So I'm going to put the link to this original video down in the description. If you have any recommendations for anything that you would like me to react to, you can put it in the comments. It doesn't have to be anything super deep or serious like what my last couple of videos have been. Down for comedy or what have you. It doesn't matter. I have watched a ton of videos on YouTube, so if you do recommend something to me, I may have already seen it, and if I have, that's okay too. I'll watch it again and do more of like a breakdown or at least assessment analysis of what I think about it, which is what I'm doing in these first few videos, looking at topics that interest me that I might be more familiar with and kind of giving my analysis of what I think of what they're saying. So yeah, that's going to about wrap it up. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your time, and I hope you come back for the next video. Take care. Have a blessed day.